In the vein of thinking beyond the portfolio, this week we're going to cover the 10 reasons you should think about updating your will. Last week, my colleague Ben Klunt talked about how you can utilize an HSA and a backdoor Roth contribution as part of your financial plan. And in the written portion of our commentary this week, my colleague John is going to discuss how Social Security can fit into that mix. We're going to talk about the top 10 reasons you should update your will. Number one, you're getting ready to have your first child. And you can think about this from the I'm a new parent, or if you're a grandparent, some great information to pass on to your kids. When you're getting ready to have that first child, the biggest reason you should look at establishing or updating the will is obviously to keep that child in mind. Naming beneficiaries, making sure you've thought through what you would want to happen financially and with the care of that child if, God forbid, something was to happen to you. Number two, certainly not as fun of a topic, but if you get divorced. After divorce, obviously things have changed drastically from a financial perspective. Have you worked that out as part of the divorce to understand how money is broken apart? In many states, a will is invalidated if spouses are no longer together. So if a divorce does occur, making sure that you go back, address that will, and update it so it reflects your current situation is key. Number three, another happy topic, your child gets married. Now, one thing to think about from that aspect is you may trust your children and the will may reflect your trust in them by naming them as beneficiaries to certain accounts, properties. But do you have that same level of trust for their new spouse? In a lot of scenarios, that may be the case and everything may look all right. In other scenarios, as you understand how they're going to manage money together, what their goals and vision are for their family, you may want to look at your will to see if anything needs to be updated to reflect the new member of your growing family. Number four, unfortunately, sometimes beneficiaries that are named in the will develop creditor problems or substance abuse issues. When those beneficiaries are directly receiving funds, that can certainly create a problem. If something like that arises in your specific instance, you may want to address the will to put in place a trust or provisions that would be in place to make sure that in a scenario like that, those dollars are protected and can be used for the benefit of that individual. Number five would be if you're named executor or the beneficiaries within your will unfortunately pass away. It's really important if that happens to update the will or make sure that there is contingent beneficiaries or executors named as part of that plan. That's something to keep in mind over time because it can certainly create problems if you have to execute on a will and those named individuals are no longer part of the picture. Number six would be when a young adult becomes responsible and you want to potentially include them further as part of that estate plan. Oftentimes, when a will is first written, a sibling or maybe another family member is named as the executor. Now, sometimes you fast forward a few decades and you may want to include your child as part of that responsibility. Don't rush that decision. It's a big responsibility to be the executor as part of an estate, but oftentimes your child may be up to task as they grow and mature in their financial life cycle. Number seven, when new legislation is passed. Obviously, this is a big deal right now with the new administration that has new goals, especially how that could affect estate planning. It's important as new legislation is passed that you work with your estate planning attorney to understand how that legislation may affect your wishes and needs within your estate plan and your will. Number eight, you come into money. Obviously, as financial needs change or as net worth grows, you want to make sure the will reflects and your estate plan reflects that net worth and what that currently looks like. So if there is an inheritance, the sale of a business, another windfall from a monetary standpoint, make sure and take a look at your will, work with your estate planning attorney to understand how things may need to change. Number nine, you can't find your original will. Sometimes if that's an area that's maybe been neglected or for whatever reason, you just can't come across it, it's important to sit down with your estate planning attorney. If they have a copy, great. If not, going back through and establishing what do your wishes look like and are they reflected based off of not only your current financial situation, but your current goals. And last but not least, if there is a falling out in your family or friend group, nothing can derail an estate plan more than conflict within the beneficiaries or with the executor. Understanding if there is that situation within how your current will is set up is key, and making sure that the language you use is very clear and concise and spelled out so there doesn't have to be any misinterpretation of what your wishes would be. Obviously, wills, estate planning are a big deal. It's important, as a rule of thumb, to take a look at your current will at least every 5 years, even if nothing has changed, just to make sure they still reflect your values and what you want to accomplish with that estate plan. If you have a good estate planning attorney, excellent. They're an unbelievable resource. If you don't, we can help you find one. Thanks again for joining us this week. Everyone have a great weekend.